Hello, Kay Niedenthal here for the Purdue Extension's Nutrition Education Program. I'm here to talk to you about vegetables today. Remember the vegetable section of My Plate? It's pretty big. You need 5 servings of vegetables every day. We all do. Serving size is about a half a cup, and 5 half-cup servings add up to 2.5 cups. So, what can we do to encourage ourselves, to train ourselves to eat more vegetables? I grow mine. That's what I like to do. I like to harvest them from the backyard. I like to try new vegetables. I like to eat many colors of vegetables. I like it that my vegetables have no chemicals and they're very conveniently located. I can just walk outside. Last year, this was my front yard garden. I love the flowers, zinnias and marigolds and coleus. But this year, I want to add some pretty vegetables. Beans. I'm going to add towers of pole beans to either corner of my front yard garden this year, so I can sit in the backyard and break beans and eat them. Here's what you need to get started. Dig your soil 6 to 12 inches. Oops! This is the first thing I ran into when digging my new garden. It's a broken off flagpole set in concrete, and I dug and dug and dug and couldn't pull it out still, so I got a pick and pried it out and was left with a hole. Yep, that's the monster. So I hope you don't run into one of these. I was rewarded with some buried treasures and some gravel I can rinse off and put back in the driveway. For starters, you'll need a shovel to break up your soil 6 to 12 inches down, and some sticks to tie your strings to at the bottom, and some string. I like butcher string. It's a nice heavy string, and I used a key ring and wire to tie the strings at the top, and I needed scissors to cut the strings at the bottom. I seeded my beans in trays so I could insert them into the ground through weed cloth. I need a box knife to cut the weed cloth, and I used my narrowest trowel for the planting process. Here's my key ring attached to my front porch awning. I've turned my dirt. I've added weed cloth for my little garden and held it down with rocks in the corners. Now I'm ready to tie some strings. I tie a double knot at the top on the key ring and then wrap the string around each stick about 3 times before I tie it on so it stays secure for the whole season. And there, just like that, I'm done and we're ready to move on to planting. I cut an X behind each stick through the weed cloth so I can see my dirt underneath. And then I use my trowel to dig as deep a hole as I can and plant that little bean plant down very carefully. And voila, now I have a bean plant for every string, and my sticks are nicely spread out. My knees looked like this when I was done. You might want to use one of these. So my little bean patch can produce an awful lot of beans. I think I have a dozen sticks and strings in here. That's a lot of beans. And I have another one on the other end, so they match. Because it's the front yard, I put mulch down on top of my weed cloth so it'll match my flower gardens that are in the middle, which have some flowers. And I've helped start my beans to vine up each string. Everything's in a good position, and with a little training, they'll make it up to the top. So the front yard gardens are going to look a little different this year. You can see matching bean towers on either corner. They'll be filled. They'll be green and lush soon. I used pretty beans, purple beans with purple blossoms, scarlet emperor beans with red blossoms, and flat yellow beans with white blossoms. In the middle of my garden, I have a Juliet tomato which will grow tall, so I gave it a trellis. And on both corners, I planted rainbow chard, red and yellow. And on either side of my tomato, I've got Italian parsley. I did add some zinnias back in because I loved the butterflies that visited my zinnias last year. They were cheerful. Let's go to the backyard and see what I might be able to do there. Through the gate. Yep, I put in some posts this year so I could keep the catnip away from the neighborhood cats and only share it when I wanted. And the hardware gave me the opportunity to add more key rings and more strings. So to each pole, I added four strings and planted Orient Wonder pole beans back there. My beans don't really get a yard long, but 1.5 feet is pretty good. And across the alley, across the driveway, I had this eyesore. It was just where I piled all the bricks and blocks that I'd found in the yard and hunks of cement, so I used them to build a raised bed. Just what was there. It wasn't very pretty, so I went to my good rocks pile and added field stones and built it up. And now I have room for 2 petunias and a tomato plant. And you can see I've added more pole beans and tied them up to the roof. Beans. Thanks for joining me for my Victory Garden video. I hope you have a good summer and can plant some things. Bessie, my front porch cow, and I wish you good luck in all your gardening endeavors.